We are eager to hear from our chief guest, Dr. R.Ravi Kannan. May I request sir to address the audience?
Ladies and gentlemen, students, graduates passing out today, my best wishes to all of you for a happy, healthy, most importantly, an extremely fulfilling life ahead. Thank you to Dr. Agarwal, Dr. Katoj, and everybody else who has invited us to participate in this morning's event. It has been a truly moving event, moving experience for me. I have a submission. I don't have a prepared text, prepared thought. I'm just going to take it extempore. I don't have any advice for any of you because you're all masters of your destiny and captains of your future. You will script your own journey yourself, and we'll all either be observers or, like your teachers, they will have a part in creating your philosophy. Also, Mr. President, I have a habit of just talking on. If you think I've run out of time, please stop me. As Dr. Agarwal said, you all have a tradition. Next year, as JIPMER, you will be completing 60 years. But even before JIPMER, you had a French School of Medicine here that is over, I guess, 200 years old. And you carry the legacy of a tradition which is very hard to find in many places on this planet. And it would do. So the other day, I was attending a meeting on social media called Marvelous Medicine. Marvelous Medicine is incidentally created by JIPMERites. And I heard some JIPMERites organizing it, and I heard another JIPMERite speak on that occasion just 2 days ago. And that story is in itself inspiring, and that is not part of Dr. Agarwal's annual report. But then all of you do many amazing, wonderful things. Dr. Agarwal mentioned, that as doctors, we're all primarily clinicians. We're all primarily healers. And so we have the power to heal. Healing is very different from curing. We're also teachers. The word doctor means teach. And when cholera struck in the beginning, John Snow actually cordoned off that pump and taught. It's a different thing that many people did not listen to him, that this is waterborne. And so as teachers, we teach students, we teach postgraduates, we teach surgeons, but we also teach the community about healthy life, about disease prevention, about health promotion, so many things. So as a doctor, we are healers and we are teachers, and now we are also researchers. Today, doctor scientist, surgeon scientist, physician scientist is a very common terminology. And many of us, so research does not necessarily have to be, into complex laboratories with flow cytometer and spectrometers. A lot of research happens in the community. What you observe and what you document and what you, analyze and try to change things. And so we are all healers and teachers and researchers. But to me, the most important role of a doctor is that of a change maker. All of us, I was hearing the names. We have Koiralas, and we have people from the north, and we have people from Bhattacharya, and we have Mistry, and the names are all over the country. And as JIPMERites, as students, as young doctors and postgraduates and super specialists, we have the muscle and we have the knowledge to change the way we treat sick people. There has been a lot of change. I know from the times when I was a student to today, there is a lot of change. I'm aware of that, and I'm not here to pontificate and say one form is better than the other. Every one of us has to make choices. But then every choice that we make should impact positively on life around us. Then, at the end of our lives, very quickly, now you're all 30, in your early 30s or not even 30, very quickly you'll be reaching your 60s and 70s, and when you look back on your life, you will wonder as to what you have done. If your objective is to create a mountain of gold, so be it. But then when we reflect back on our lives, all of us will die. But every one of us in some way has that desire to be immortal. And teachers will become immortal because of their students. Doctors will become immortal because of the families that they heal. If what we do leaves behind a positive impact on community around us, I think we'd have lived our lives well. As a young school-going student, I used to be afraid of my shadow. To go and ask the teacher for something used to sap all my courage and all my energy. I would, so much so, I used to be bullied around. In school, always, this happens. There are some fellows who are tougher, some fellows who are whiny, niney fellows. I was one of those whiny, niney fellows, and I used to get bullied around. And you won't believe, my sister, who was 2 years younger, would come to defend me. And they would see her and they would be afraid of her rather than afraid of me. That is how I was, And in college, I was a nondescript fellow. I was regular run-of-the-mill fellow who was somewhere in the last benches, and I just got along. Some people are born leaders. Some people have leadership thrust on them. And I was one of those fellows where I used to work at the Cancer Institute. I learnt, whatever I am, is because of all my teachers. I have no reservations in admitting that. From school, during my MBBS days, Dr. Rajendran used to tell me, we sometimes cure, we sometimes alleviate, but we always comfort. So I've had teachers. Elizabeth Vishwan, I was asking about the anatomy department. I had an amazing teacher in anatomy called Elizabeth Vishwanathan. And so I overlearned my professors during surgery, Dr. Sarda. He was a merciless taskmaster, but then he made me what I am. He would tell me, Ravi Kannan, a sound theoretician makes a sound surgeon. And I came from an environment where I used to think surgery is all cutting and stitching. But, oh, Baba, you go to the table without having read about the patient. If I didn't know the creatinine value of the patient we were operating, that's it. All mayhem would break loose. So, and then during my MCH days, I had the fortune of working with Dr. Krishnamurthy and Shanta, and all that I am are because of all of these people. All of you also are born into privilege. I really believe that each one of us sitting here has been born into privilege. We may have been born in different houses, different states, different cities, different amounts of wealth, but we've all had the privilege of being educated, or being sitting here, becoming doctors, receiving an award, which many people do not have. We could have easily born in the house of a fisherman or a slum dweller and not had all these opportunities. I think all of us are created unequal. All of us on this planet are created unequal. Somebody is given more of education, more of skills, more of wealth, and others are deprived of everything. And I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. But then whoever created us, somebody must have created us, and whoever created us unequal in the faith that those of us who have more than what others have will use what we want for ourselves, and all the surplus we will use for people who don't have them. And that, I think, is a moral obligation, is a social responsibility we all have. So at the Cancer Institute, one fine day, all my seniors, people who taught me how to do a mastectomy and do a Whipples, left. And suddenly, I was found to be the head of the team. And then, whether I liked it or not, I had to lead the team. And one by one, we put together a department of surgical oncology. We had the fortune of having amazing people working with us. We had others in medical oncology, surgery, radiation oncology, pathology. We had a great team. And then the story, I now work in a town called Silchar, which is on the eastern side of Bangladesh. So if you have to go from Kolkata to Silchar, you have to cross the entire airspace of Bangladesh or go around the entire country of Bangladesh. So we follow the Indian Standard Time. And so it is 6 o'clock later in Silchar, but it is sunrise earlier in Dhaka. Because of the time zones. We follow a central time zone and we are on both sides of Bangladesh time. And so sun rises earlier in some parts of India, but the clock strikes 6 first in Bangladesh and then in Silchar. Just a curiosity. So the place where I work is the city is a typical shanty Indian town, but just around 10-15 minutes away from there, amazing countryside. And imagine about 100 years ago, there was a doctor called Ronald Ross. All of you would have heard of him. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1902 for his work on the malarial parasite. He started his malaria work in the tea gardens of Assam. There's a tea garden called Labok, about 30 kilometers from where we are, about an hour and a half away. And his microscope, his hand drawings, they're all there for us to go and see. In the UK, they would charge us £5 to go or £10 to go. And here we can just walk in, handle the microscope, But then what inspires me every time I go there is that laboratory is about one third of the stage. And there is that man with the microscope, with just his mind and the microscope, and he changed medical history. All of us now read about malarial parasite, we read about chloroquine and then in the newer drugs, but then that man single-handedly changed history, and that power is vested in all of us. If Ronald Ross could do that 100 years ago, today with all our fancy equipment, we should be able to do much more. And Ronald Ross did not patent it. He did not get anything out of his discoveries. But, the whole of mankind benefits by it. And so today, each of us can do that. So the story of the hospital is another very inspiring story. See, there was no cancer center in that area. The nearest cancer center was in Guwahati at the Bibarwa Cancer Center. And that is 350 kilometers from where we are. And 350 kilometers, even today, sometimes will take us 10-15 hours. If there is a landslide, that's all. We are stuck there forever till the lorry. If a lorry breaks, they are small, narrow roads. So if a lorry breaks down on the middle of the road, that's it. There will be a queue which is several kilometers and you have to wait patiently. So those days, and cancer treatment takes forever. So chemotherapy is several months, radiation is 2 months, surgery, by the time their treatment is over, side effects are gone, year and a half gone. And most of them, even today, are daily wage earners. For them, it is an impossibility to go and complete treatment. And so treatment deferral was very, very common. So, and cancer incidence is high for a variety of lifestyle factors. So what happened? The lay citizens of the factory, lawyers, engineers, teachers, tradespeople, everybody got together and they formed a cancer society, saying that we need a cancer hospital here. And then they went, some of them are still around, they are in their late 70s and 80s, infirm people, but very much around. And then they went around from door to door seeking donations. The local politician was an influential minister in the central government. He supported them, and they had a basic hospital. Then their then director, Dr. Chinmoy Chaudhary, he went around different cancer centers in the country, trying to understand how a cancer hospital is to be organized. He spent some months with us at the Cancer Institute, where I was working those days. And then we had a policy in the Cancer Institute that everybody who walks in must be treated, whether or not they had the money for the treatment. And so he was very favorably impressed by that thought, and he would keep referring patients to us then. And then in late 2006, sometime in November, I think, I left the Cancer Institute and he happened to call. And I said, I'm no longer there. He said, oh, why are you not coming there? And plumb, my wife Sita said, Ravi, we are not going anywhere near that place because they have bombs and they have floods, and that is not a place where we want to go to. And so I told them I cannot come. But then those days there was not email and mobile phones and all that. Every weekend we would get a long distance call. And then so Sita and I decided that, okay, we will go and see what is happening. So sometime in April of 2007, my daughter, who was in class 4, and Sita and I visited Silchar. My daughter was in a school that did not have examinations. They believed that children should pass automatically. So every day when I would ask her, Chinnu, what did you do? Appa, I played. And I used to despair, what is this girl going to learn? She's going to turn out to be an imbecile. Anyway, when we went there, we spent about a week, I think, and I worked in the hospital. The society members took Sita around the community. We went looking at schools, and every school principal would say, Doctor, come. We know why you would want to come. Your child will get admission. Arey, she doesn't know Hindi. She doesn't know Bangla. She doesn't know Akomiya. Don't worry, doctor. children are very fast, they will learn. Look how coincidences work. We went to the local Kendriya Vidyalaya. I am a KV product. My father was in the Air Force. So I went through different Kendriya Vidyalaya. Thank you. I understand there are many KVites here. So I'm very, very pleased to own that, So when we went to the local Kendriya Vidyalaya, the local KV principal, Hari Singh, was my batch KV pass out. I passed out from KV Tambram and he passed out from KV Kapurthala. 2 minutes we had that KV background. Ravi, your daughter will get admission. 1 reason, 2 reasons, 5, 6 reasons. That she had to take an examination to qualify was a different story. But then, the way things just pennies fall into place. And so before we could go back, Sita, I remember we were sitting on the 3rd floor of a hotel room. I was sitting on the windowsill and there was rain falling and I could smell the wet. I can still smell that wet earth of so many years ago. And Sita and my daughter were sitting on the bed in the middle of the room. And Sita said, Ravi, I think there's a lot of need here. This is what we should be doing. And then my daughter started. Immediately she perked up, Amma, I will lose my friends. And she started crying. And we sort of cajoled her, comforted her. But when we went back, Sita resigned from work. She used to be the regional officer at USEFI in Chennai. She resigned from work and she initiated the discussion in both sets of homes. Both sets of parents thought something wrong with these fellows. They've gone mad. My colleagues with whom I was in a group practice were very unhappy. They thought this is going to be professional harakiri. But they let me go to Silchar because they never thought Sita would resign. Ayyappan, my colleague, his insurance was Sita is a professional working woman. She will never quit work. So let this man go scratch his itch in Silchar and come back. So when I came back, this is how I broke the news to my colleagues. I told Ayyappan we were operating the whole day and he kept asking me, what happened? He knew something was not, what it should be. So after we finished surgery, we were having coffee and I told Ayyappan, Sita has resigned from work. There was a long silence and then he looked at me and said, so I have to ask you, when are you leaving? So that's how we came to Silchar. Honestly speaking, we did not know the magnitude of the problem. We did not know the plethora of problems that we would face. And we continued. Each time there was a problem, we would solve it, put in place a process and move on. We never had the resources to have a master plan and implement it. And so when we landed in Silchar, we were a small unit. We were only about 20 odd people and we had 20 beds and for the most part they would remain empty. But what happens is in small towns, even here if you were to go to Namakkal or Karaikal or somewhere, the doctor from Chennai is the bada doctor. So if it is put out, everybody will want to go and see the bada doctor. So I was a bada doctor from Chennai, landed up in Silchar, So quickly the volumes rose and our OPD attendance rose, ward became filled and we quickly had to get our act together. You won't believe, for 23 people, all of us put together in 2007, our monthly salary budget was 1,96,000 rupees. And today we have 450 people, more than 450 people after so many years, and now our salary budget is 1.5 crores. And sometimes it is mind-boggling. I sometimes wonder how we are going to sustain all of this. But anyway, to cut the story short, quickly the volumes rose and we had to do a variety of things. I learned, my Cancer Institute days taught me, everybody must be treated. So we took that policy, everybody must have treatment, and we would say we will treat. And so we put in place low cost or no cost treatment, we put in place boarding, we put in place lodging. And then in 2010, we got a grant for palliative care. Our morphine license came very early. In the first 6 months, we had morphine. We had the local drug controller come in for a meeting, and very quickly the license was given. 2010, the Indo-American Cancer Association gave us a grant to train a doctor and nurse for palliative care. So we trained the doctor and nurse, and the doctor, Dr. Iqbal, was actually a part-time anesthetist in the medical college, and he would come and give anesthesia for us. I used to keep telling him, Iqbal, you come and join us. Iqbal would say, aajaun kya, haan no, and then this grant came. Before the grant, there was a pain management program conducted by a professor of anesthesiology at the AIIMS. He organized a pain course. So Iqbal went for that course and he came back fired. Sir, there is so much that we can do for relieving pain. And then when this offer for training came up, he was undecided. So he went to, he's a religious person. So Iqbal went to his Peer Baba. And the Peer, he told the Peer, you know, he was first on the recruitment list in the Department of Anesthesia in the medical college. He had just had to walk in. And so he met his Peer Baba, and I don't know why the Peer Baba said, join the Cancer Institute. I have no connection with him. But Iqbal joined us. He went for training. He came back. In 2011, we had to make a presentation for the Indo-American Cancer Center, their annual meeting in Kolkata. So we looked at our data and we found that only 30% of our patients had come back for oral morphine. Morphine, all of you know, is a quality parameter in palliative care. If pain is a very common symptom, advanced cancer, almost 80-90% of patients will experience excruciating pain. And so morphine use indicates the quality and reach of palliative care. So I said 30% doesn't matter. Most of them come from far off places and they're dying, so they're not coming back. But what we said is people whom we are treating with intent to cure, we are giving them low cost, no cost treatment, we are giving them boarding, we are giving them, so they're all doing well. And at the meeting in front of Dr. Vinay Jain, Iqbal and I actually made this statement. We said only 30% of patients are coming back for oral morphine, but then people who we are treating with intent to cure are all doing very well. And even as we made that statement, we realized this is something we had not verified. So when we came back, I requested my colleague in the registry. The tumor registry was one of the first departments. Dr. Katoch was part of that story. We started a registry very early on. And so I asked Amit, you know, what is happening? So Amit goes back, spends some time and comes back and tells me, sir, out of 100 people who walk into the OPD, only 42 people actually start investigation. 58 fellows do not come back for a second visit. Can you believe that? Nearly 60% of people don't come back to the hospital after the first visit. And out of the 42 who initiate treatment, just about 28 complete treatment, which means all that we were doing was a giant failure, was a fraud. We were not changing anybody's lives. And we started thinking, oh, what is happening? We were morons. We could not figure out why this was happening. And then looking, we realized 80% of our people work for daily wages. And then they're not able to come back again and again, so just default. When they come to the hospital in the beginning, initial investigation, those days would talk 3,000, 4,000 rupees, and they would not come back, that's all. So quickly we said, you know, we didn't go through a formal quality improvement training program. We didn't know about equip and quality and all that. So all knee-jerk reactions. So we said, oh, they are daily wages, let's provide ad hoc employment to them. And there also, how naive we were, we said, we will provide a tailoring industry, we'll create a paper-making industry. And we actually wrote projects seeking support for this, only to realize none of them knows about tailoring, none of them knows anything. If they have to learn skills to work in an ad hoc industry, gone. So we tore up those papers and we said we'll provide unskilled labor in the kitchen, in the gardens, in the cleaning areas. We have an in-house electrician, plumber, mason, all of them need assistance, and we started providing ad hoc unskilled labor. We started with 30 rupees and I thought that's a game changer. We do that and everybody will come and finish. That's what I thought. Today we are paying about 300 rupees. And then we also took a decision that everybody who leaves the hospital, for whatever visit they come and they get registered, they must go up with a follow-up date. I have an amazing colleague called Abhijit. He's a IT personnel into information technology, a computer magician. So he wrote out a software whereby if I open today's date, 100 names come, and as we see them, left behind are the people who have not come. Then we get on the phone, Didi, you did not come back for Kenya. I said, come, we'll help you, we'll treat you. What is your problem? That phone numbers change, that is another problem. We will not go into that. But anyway, so the next year what happened was, we looked at the data conscientiously. We knew there was something wrong. And we found that about 50% or 55% of people completed prescribed treatment next year. Then what happened? The Center for Information Technology. Then I had an opportunity to listen to Mrs. Harmala Gupta. Harmala Gupta is a volunteer who runs an organization called Can Support in Delhi, and they are into palliative care. Now, her program, all of you, if you have an opportunity, must go and see her program. Very well organized. Delhi is organized into so many sectors. Each sector has its own vehicle, driver, ambulance, doctor, and they go. The best thing was there was no money transfer in this whole bargain, and they were doing very well. We also had a home care program, but all the time I would think, who will pay for the diesel, who will pay for the Foley catheter, will the driver collect the money, will he give a receipt, will he swindle? Because of that, when we heard her, we came back and said, okay, no more charges for home care. Immediately we said we will do home care for free. We also, the thing that we said is, after doing the home visits, we also started visiting homes of people who are not coming back to us for treatment. So we would go and find out what is happening, and what happened is that year the compliance rose to almost 70%. But the bigger thing that happened, more than the compliance rising, is that, all my colleagues, we would always have this terrible democracy in the organization. Everybody has an opinion, everybody thinks their opinion is the right opinion, and everybody will want their opinion to be implemented. And so when we started visiting, they would all say, sir, they have money at home and they don't want to pay you, they are cheating you. When we started visiting homes of people, for first hand we saw nobody is bluffing. Poverty is genuine. They don't have money, yet they will offer you puri, yet they will offer you chai, and neither can you say yes because they have not eaten, and nor can you say no because you will hurt them. But then my whole team came on board. Today, if you walk into the hospital, nobody will ask a patient to prove their poverty. We think that is very, very inhumane. Ek to garibi hai, you are poor. And then you are asked to prove that you're rubbing their noses on the ground, That is not the way, as physicians, as doctors, as human beings, we should behave. Today they say they don't have money, we see how do we support them. The other good thing that happened was the Department of Information Technology, MIT. They have divisions that are focused on information technology. And so their unit somewhere near Shimla, they were looking at implementing telemedicine software, and everybody looks at the Northeast. So they wanted to implement in the Northeast. But what happens is there's a lot of mistrust between government and non-government organizations for several perfectly valid reasons. So they don't want to work with any non-government organizations. So they chose the NIT in Silchar. It just so happened that the director of NIT Silchar knew us. His wife had a breast cancer and she was seeing us. And so he decided to work with us. And so this telemedicine software came to us. So because of that, we were able to start a center in Karimganj. We were able to start a center in neighboring districts. The centers continue to function. And we were able to start satellite clinics. All the home care that used to happen from Silchar now happens from Lala and happens from Karimganj. The whole thing is getting more decentralized. And so immediately the compliance picks up. Then we realized that we were charging 100 rupees as consultation in the OPD, valid for a month, any number of doctors, any number of visits. But then look at cancer, they have to come month on month on month on month, and so that monthly 100 rupees became a disincentive. So we thought and said, we did our math and said, we are getting so much of money from these, let us redo it. And we said one-time consultation fee, we said 500 rupees. For a lifetime, no further charge. Immediately the compliance. In the dental OPD, in the physiotherapy, everywhere compliance rises. So bit by bit, when we treat, what we now understand is when we treat poor people, 10 out of 10 times the message should go out that we are pro-poor. The way the hospital appears, it has to be clean, but it shouldn't be fancy. We don't want marble, we don't have fountains, we don't have paintings on the wall. And the way the staff behave, the way when they stop us on the corridor, we can tell them, you come and see us in the OPD at this hour, we will talk to you. But no, we have to stop then and there and address that issue. 10 out of, from the doorman to the director, everybody must reflect this pro-poor stance. If we don't do that as a team, one man, one group of people cannot do it. And that has to be 24/7. They call you, you have to answer. They come and stop you on the road, you must answer. There is no other way, because earning trust is very difficult. But breaking that trust is very, very, one misstep and you will break it. I will give you an example. So we did a Whipple's procedure for a individual from somewhere in North Tripura with a periampullary cancer. And so after those days, we were very much into using albumin. Today we are wiser. And so we said he needs albumin, and so it will cost 5,000 rupees. She said, you go ahead and give the albumin, I will pay you later. Okay, we gave it. Patient recovered, was getting discharged, and the report comes 1 out of 13 nodes positive. So we had to offer him chemotherapy. When we call them and advise them for chemotherapy, that lady goes berserk. Discharge. Falling at everybody's feet. Discharge, discharge. Doctor's feet, nurse's feet, everybody. Kya ho raha hai? Discharge kar do. Okay. Then Debu, who was our pharmacist those days, he is now our hospital administrator. Debu told me we have medicines that we can give it to her without charge. I said, okay, shall I tell her? Please go ahead. When Debu tells her, she falls at his feet sobbing. She didn't have that 5,000 rupees. You know what she did? She had a 7-year-old son. She took him and sold him to the village landlord for, I don't know how many months or years, for 5,000 rupees. When we heard that, we had goosebumps. All our hair stood up, righteously angry. Call the MP. I said, you take the 5,000 rupees and get your son released. She would not touch. We were, call the MP, call the SP, call Baba, Baba, Baba. And she would not budge. Later, I thought, when I was a little more sane, that she has to go back to that village. And if she quarrels with the landlord and this man dies, what will happen? And so, but then the good thing was, they stayed for some time. He got the chemotherapy. We were able to give her the money. She released the landlord must have been a kind person. He released the child. The child, actually, strapping fellow, he came to see me. And then, that's not the end of the story. 9 months later, the man develops disseminated metastasis and dies. As doctors, even with the best of intentions, we can wreak havoc on communities. And so, as doctors, as physicians, in whatever field we choose, see, unfortunately, as trainees, we are not taught about the implications of cost. When we treat diabetes, we will not hesitate to prescribe the latest anti-diabetic oral hypoglycemic agent. When we treat hypertension, we will often not use cheaper amlodipines and furosemides, and we will prescribe, telmisartan and even the more recent sartans, and because that is what we think we should do the best. But the best always comes at a cost. And the implications of cost on the families of poor patients is something we have never been taught, we have never been sensitized to. And so now what we are trying to do in the organization is, see, over the years we have done many things. I won't take you into everything just now. But we have tried to make sure that we are pro-poor, that we support poor people 10 out of 10 times. And in order to do that, what we did was we sat down as an organization, we wrote our vision. What is it that we as an organization envision for the future? So we said we want to become an organization where every preventable cancer can be prevented, that everybody will get the treatment he or she needs, irrespective of what their paying capacity is, that no patient will die in agony and indignity either because of the disease or because of the treatment, and that no family will be put out on the streets because of cancer-induced costs. That is our vision. And to do that, we as a team, many of my colleagues, all of us have spent, more than a decade in each other's companies. We have rubbed off onto each other. So if you talk to Abhijit or Ritesh or Polomi or Debu or Arnab or anybody, or Sarita, our nursing supervisor is a giantess, in the intellectual sense. And so if you talk to any of them, you will actually find all of us talking the same sentiments. But then we are now thinking, this is okay, we have done what we want to do, but how do we propagate these values to people who join us in the future? Because it is one thing for all of us to do what we are doing, and one by one when we drop off, see, life is an infinite journey. I will continue on this journey for some time. And then I will walk off, somebody will take my place, and this journey will continue. It is never ending. So so problems will change. And this way they are solved also will change. We cannot write out solutions for the nth generation after us. We are not that wise or that far-sighted. But like honesty and integrity, some core values cannot change. And so we all again brainstormed, got into a room like this, and all of us said, what are our core values? So we said the most important core value that we have is compassion. So when I talk of compassion, I have to share another story with you. Do I have time? I have another. So as a fourth year MBBS student, we used to sit in the library and read. And there used to be a book called Cecil's Textbook of Medicine. I'm not sure if it is around any longer, but those days it was a big fat book. And the initial pages of Cecil's textbook had a whole lot about philosophy of medicine, many things, history of medicine, many things were there. And there I read an incident about this doctor in rural America. He becomes the president of his society. And that year, the society is having its annual meeting near his home, and he is going to be presiding over it. For him, that is the pinnacle of his career. He does not have anything more to look up to. And so he's all prepared. He prepares his speech, writes it down, rehearses it, wears a, I think, bow tie, whatever description, and they go to the meeting. As the meeting starts, somebody passes a slip to him. He reads it, leaves his prepared text with somebody, and walks off, and doesn't come back till in the evening. Dance and dinner is happening, and he comes in looking tired and haggard. What happened? You were supposed to be delivering the presidential oration. Somebody else delivered it on your behalf. You were absent. He said, when the meeting started, that slip that came to me said that a patient of mine had died. And I felt that at that moment, it was more important for me to be with the family than deliver the oration on the podium. And so I left. Even today, when I recount that story, it just fires me up. That is the kind of physician that I think I would aspire to be. That is the kind of physician I would like my students to be. And that is compassion. During COVID, we overnight, all of you would have gone through this horror. Suddenly we separated families with COVID, their relatives separated, middle of the night. We had one night, we were new to COVID. It happened in the rest of the country, and COVID came to our region 4 or 5 months later, because people don't travel to that part. But one evening we had 23 people decided COVID positive, and so we had to separate them. And family members said, no, it doesn't matter if I'm negative, I will also stay there. And it looked so cruel. But then but my staff, my colleagues all of us knew very little about it those days during the first wave. But then my colleagues, look at their compassion. The nurse, there's an old lady sitting and talking on a phone and crying. I went there for rounds, and the nurse sits with her. She's also in all her protective gear. She sits with that lady, hugs her, and gently rubs her back. I have a picture of it somewhere. And such an example of compassion. All of us are in trouble. All of us are uncertain. All of us are fearful. Yet this nurse, who I don't know what was her training, has it in her to comfort another human being in misery. And that nurse is my icon for compassion. And then we said, all of us talk of teamwork. The truth is, teamwork is very important. Somebody goes to NASA, and they're waiting to meet some scientist in NASA. And so this man comes to clean the floor. And so they're all good, hello, good evening, how are you, how is it? If you go to the US, you'll see, this spontaneous greeting is pretty common. So he says, how do you do? And say, I'm very well, sir. And so what are you doing here? He looks at this visitor and says, sir, I help put people on the moon. This man is a cleaning personnel, and he realizes that keeping the place dust-free and spick and span is a very important part of making sure that you are able to put. So in my hospital, if somebody were to come and ask Nikhil is a general duty attendant, and if you were to ask, I would want Nikhil to say, I help people treat cancer. Because keeping the place clean, everybody in the organization is important, whether it is a cleaning personnel or a nurse or a technician or a patient navigator or a doctor or anybody. Every one of us is important, and every one of us contributes to keeping patients healthy, well, and healed. So sometimes in our ICU, we have sick people on the bed, and then I have this cleaning lady who comes and cleans the floor. She brings the machine, but then I see her chatting with the patient on the couch, on the bed, and sometimes she will say something and the patient will smile, and then some of them will sing while they're at work. And these are all, I think, immensely healing procedures, healing activities, and we are very happy that our colleagues have the ability to do this. We want to be people-centered. Yes, it is often said patient-centered. If you look at the IOM description of quality, it is patient-centered, but we corrupted it. We said it should be people-centered because, yes, patient is there, but beyond the patient, there is a family of the patient. There are anxious relatives, sons, parents, wives, spouse, people, and we have to keep all of them in the center of our activity. And then we also have our own colleagues. When we have to be compassionate to patients, very important that we are compassionate to our own colleagues. We are very quick to find fault and criticize. I used to be like that, very, very demonic. When I was at the Cancer Institute, now people tell me, they would come and see my shoes outside the ICU. They will make an about turn and go away. Okay, they were frightened of me. They were scared of me. I don't want to be a mentor like that. I don't want to be a doctor who frightens people away. So we want to be compassionate and kind to everybody around us, including our own selves. We want to make sure we are evidence-based. All of you understand, we must be evidence-based. Today, nobody will accept, I feel this is the way to do that. That generation is gone. Today, we want data, we want proof, we want scientific evidence. So when we do something, one of my nurses will ask, where is the data for that, sir? And 15 years ago, Ravi Kannan would have taken offense. But today, I think, very good thing that this is happening. So we sat and wrote down, we want mutual respect. We want to make sure that because everybody is treating patients, like cleaning man put person on the moon, Nikhil puts patients on the path to health. And so we have to be mutually respectful. And so we wrote down all our core values, and now we are trying to teach these core values to everybody who comes in. We are trying to understand the process of inculcating these core values to everybody who comes and wants to work with us. The other thing, our current passion is to take treatment as close to people's homes as possible. So earlier we thought we have this main hospital here, and then we will put these satellite clinics, which will be daycare affairs, 6-8 beds, 6-8 staff, where we will do chemotherapy, palliative care, OPD visits, endoscopies, biopsies, and things like that. So envisage a system where around us there will be clinics, and then we said we will have PEP centers, prevention, early detection, and palliative care. Both ends of the disease care spectrum, which are so important. Prevent not only for cancer, for cardiac diseases, for renal disease, for everything. Prevention and early detection, and the other end of the spectrum, palliative care, are low-hanging fruit, but low resource intense. The returns in terms of investment are enormous, enormous. Prevention and early detection actually helps save money. Same way, good quality, aggressive palliative care actually saves money by avoiding needlessly fruitless forms of treatment. And so we want to put these PEP centers in multiple areas, which will serve small communities of 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people. But then suddenly the government of Tripura offered us a large plot of land in North Tripura. And so our greed got better of us. And so now we are thinking, oh, we must put another hospital. So we're now looking at putting a 30-bed hospital. But the thing is, opportunities come in different forms. And as a team of people engaged in healthcare or industry or whatever, we must be nimble enough, like what happened during COVID, We have to be nimble enough to adopt to different opportunities that come and make the best of it in order to serve our communities better. See, remember, we're all healers, we're all clinicians, but we're also teachers, we're also researchers, but most importantly, every one of you is a change maker. God bless you all. Have a wonderful, fulfilling life ahead. Thank you.